Hey everybody, this is Hilton here from the Crossing Church, and I have the privilege of just sitting with Craig and Taryn Herbert, and they are currently in Wichita at the moment, and we have dialed in together to have a very quick catch-up of the journey that God's got them on, and it's just a privilege to have this opportunity to chat to you guys. And Craig, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, thank you, Hilton.
Very good.
Hi.
Lovely to hear that. Taryn, how are you doing?
Really doing well. Thank you very much.
So yeah, I reached out to Craig, and Craig reached out to me, and we realized that perhaps maybe communications isn't your strongest skill set and gifting that God's given Craig. So we thought, let's get this little video together and give everybody a bit of an update as to the journey that God's taken you guys on. And I've got a couple of questions from my side, but Craig, why don't you kick us off? Give us a bit of context. It's been about 6 months since you guys have left South Africa, and just give us a bit of an understanding of where you guys are at. Tell us about the journey over there. Maybe guys missed that in the beginning, and yeah, over to you, man.
Awesome, thanks, Hilt. Like Hilton said, it's been a while since we've communicated, and we've left some bit of communication going on social media, but it's not our strength. It is in our marriage, but not to everyone else. But it's our story is very unique in the sense that COVID, if you know it's through it for a loop, and what should have been a straightforward journey with measurable dates and times, it ended up being just unknown and really just taking it step by step. So the doors that we've seen God open are fantastic doors. So to think back on 6 months is quite a hectic thing. When this finally goes out, it'll actually be a year since the first time we left South Africa to come to America. Wow. And then we came back. It was supposed to be a quicker trip than it landed up being. But anyway, so it's great to see everything go full circle and see God sort of just connect everything again, which has just been a testimony for us. So 6 months ago, left to go to Mexico for 2 weeks. That was tough, enduring for the gospel, but it was a necessity to get into America at that time, and we were able to do that. Everything that the lawyer said happened. We were able to get our exemption to be able to let in under R1. We operating under our R1, that all went well. For us, getting settled into Wichita has been a great time. It's been a good time for us. It's been a great time as a family, just setting up a home and figuring out what that was. That was the beginning of summer. It was good to have a American summer, 4th of July, all of those things that come with American culture has been great. To be over a season, to see summer turn into fall, heading towards winter has been good. But towards the end of it, we realized that September school starts, and we had to suddenly realize that our kids need an education, and the grace to homeschool had run out from both parents, but mainly Taryn. So we really were looking at what next for them, and an amazing door opened into a private Christian school here, Life Prep Academy, and that has been a amazing testimony in itself. In just sitting down with them and finding them hearing our story, and maybe I should push pause here because arriving in Wichita was to be with Restoration Church, and that has been incredible. The way that they've welcomed us, the way that they've just blessed us, friendships, things, house furnished, all of that has been incredible. Honestly, it feels like a home that we never knew about, but as we've spent more time here, it's been amazing. It's just been great to build friendships. I had the opportunity of coming onto staff at Restoration, working with Scott Parks, which has been great. It's been another church environment. It's just been good to operate under that, and just through their through processing everything with him, figuring out schools and all of that, and how education works, the opportunity for life prep opened up. And yeah, the opportunity was great. We sat with the principal and just chatting through our experiences prior to coming onto eldership at Cornerstone. What experience do we have? What we've studied. They actually ended up offering Taryn a job as you explain it to them.
A teacher's assistant.
That's cool.
Quite simple.
But it's not just that. It's
No. So I'm a teacher's assistant, which means I'm a volunteer. So I volunteer at the school, and I watch kids while they are on a remote call with a college professor, and so she does AP college courses with the kids, which is a great program for the school. But she's all the way in another state, so she sits there. She does the class, and I keep an eye on the kids, which is a great privilege. It means I don't have to prepare for anything, but I do get in connection with a lot of the kids, which is a great ministry opportunity, and I get to pray for them and love them.
And Knox, Stella, and Tyson, are they in the same school?
Yes, Knox, Stella, and Titus are in the same school,
What did
and they do Tyson, which is a nice name, but not.
It's a prophetic thing. It must be like a Tyson, it's awesome.
Well, there we go. So yes, no, so because I work there, and because Craig is an assistant coach there, the kids are able to go to the school, and they've just really blessed us, even with the finances, to be able to do that. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So I have the opportunity of coaching. I can't call it football because the Americans have stolen that name, but soccer. I hate saying that, but you have to. So soccer, as America knows it, football, as the rest of the world knows it. And it's been great. The unique thing about the school is they have a large percentage of the school's international students. So I think they gave us this. I think it's like 30 different nations come to the school. They get guys from all over Asia, from all over Europe. So even for me, I know Taryn's got a lot of different nationalities in her classes. For me, in the soccer program that we ran, out of a squad of 25 kids, there were even just there were like 13 different nations. And we know where God's called us in New York is one of the most diverse places on earth. Queens particularly is there's every nation there, and so we can see it's God preparing us, trying to understand American cultures with foreigners and with people who aren't native to America. And some of these kids might have a religious understanding of Christianity, but I had the privilege of being able to go share Jesus with them. Taryn's obviously within the class, we with them on the sports field. So just be able to understand American culture, understand world culture, and then just see how the gospel can filter through has really been a preparation for that.
Incredibly,
so that's
strategic season that you guys find yourself in. I mean, if you look back to the 6 months and what you thought it might be when you arrived to where you find yourselves now, in a very much kind of in-field job moments, and what God's lining up for you. I mean, speaking about those different cultures and just New York being a melting pot of all these different cultures coming together, and it's exactly what God's put right in front of you to learn from. It's incredible, guys.
And that from like the work doors that school doors that God has opened, but to sit at Restoration on staff, learning from Americans. I think within the NCMI and all our partnerships that we come from, a lot of those voices are South Africans gone to America, filtered through those lenses, and it's not bad lenses, just the lenses that we've had. and to sit with an American who's planted very similar to probably how we're going to plant, has very similar kingdom values, to see church culture that way has been a massive privilege for us. Just learning.
Yeah. Craig shares a lot of the overview, and there's so many details of who God is in our story, even in the last 6 months. I'm more of the details person, but
share them with us quickly.
Just from from how we've landed, I don't know, it sounds silly, but I know that every step that God has given us and every blessing that he's given us is just a reaffirming of what he's called us to, and how he's called us into that he's sure that we're sure of what he's doing. And so even in Mexico, I don't know, I hope it doesn't sound too silly, but even in Mexico, we were in a small little hotel room with the 5 of us, and within 3 days they gave us a penthouse to stay in for the 15 days that we were in Mexico. Nothing that we did, everything that they offered us. So we did nothing to get it. They just gave it to us. The small things, I mean, even big things. This church restoration, they bought a house on their property so that we could live in it. They bought a car so that we could drive it. I mean, unbelievable. It's just beyond me, the way that God puts in people's hearts, and that he gives so generously to us when we don't even ask. And it's affirming in our hearts of what he's called us to, that we're in the right place and we're doing the right things. Staying with the school the kids can go to, they get a soft landing into American public school, which is amazing for them. So those things that we overlook or that have happened and they're like, oh, that's great. Actually, those are massive things for me as a mom, but in our family, to see how God takes care of us.
Knowing that God's in the details that we don't even see is massive for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's incredible, guys. Your experiences, obviously, that you're going to document right up until the day that you plant a church, is going to be something that will encourage many church planters and nations. So drilling into that and just really kind of oil digging here for a moment of what's been the most testing thing in and amongst the 6 months. I know that there's been a longer journey beyond those 6 months, as you mentioned earlier, Craig, but what has been the most testing in terms of the family adaptation side? So firstly, starting with the kids and yourselves, even as a couple, what has been some of the challenges there? And then secondly, not that it would be a challenge in a church environment, but what have been some of the things that you've had to learn to live with and learn to know that it's completely different to what you've been brought up in? So maybe, Taryn, you can give us that on the family side, and then we can come over to you, Craig, for the church context.
So I would have said at first that the food was a challenge, and that English is a challenge, to be understood. Even though we speak the same language, we have very different words. And so, it's difficult to be understood in that way. But the biggest challenge that I found, the most testing thing, is that here is really different. The amount of time that a school takes up, the amount when extra curricular activities happen, the time that everybody goes to sleep, it's really different in a sense that it starts really early and ends really late. To compare, in South Africa, you'd have a whole afternoon with your kids and they'd be able to run around. In America, that time is by half. The kids only get home after 4 in the afternoon. They have their extracurricular, and then they only go to sleep after 8. The difference in South Africa is huge. So for me, time has been a huge struggle. And to get into trying to maintain everything at home while having less time, I think our family, I don't know, for our family, for me in particular, has been a really testing thing, and coming to terms with the fact that like things are different.
Yeah.
Like you assume that, I don't know, there's a lot of things that you assume will be different, but you don't know that until you're living it. And for me, Americans spend a lot of time working and a lot of time at school, and so it's different for us.
Yeah, that's cool. That kind of sets the scene and paints the picture. For you, Craig, from a church point of view?
Yeah, I think for us, even just with family, it's you think you know American culture, but you don't. There's so many unknowns to it, and figuring those things out. I think for me, we've had the privilege of being at Restoration that is not necessarily is not a partnering church to NCMI, but it's a door that God's opened, and it's kingdom. So for us on different levels, we have an ideal of how we're going to plant a church, and our time at Cornerstone shapes that. Our time at Restoration shapes that. Partnership with NCMI shapes that. So it's constantly getting shaped by different influences, and what we left with and what we find ourselves speaking about is what's kingdom, and what do we find is kingdom, and hold on to that.
Very
and
good,
whether their styles are different, or whether they sing different songs, which they don't, or as long as it's the king and his kingdom, and you say that, but when it comes to reality, and you're like, okay, do I believe this one thing? I can't even think of an example, but I'm sure I would. That one thing, I know that's the thing that we need to focus on. You realize, no, that's not kingdom, so you don't actually have to worry about it. Exactly. So you can ebb and flow a bit. And I think the biggest thing, and it's just in our story, is knowing God's timing, is just being secure in His timing. My identity is not in a church plant. My identity is not in being on staff. My identity is not in being a coach. My identity is in following God and the doors He opens. And that's been a huge thing for us, is just moving at God's pace, which is not our pace. And it's been good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. How have you guys done? So you're young. You have a whole bunch of support behind you. You loved. You've been missed. You are missed. NCMI Connects are not the same without Craig sitting at the back with his coffee and engaging as he does with everybody that walks past. But you guys are missed. You missed from your church at Cornerstone. You're missed by the family. How does that leave you guys as a couple to have to strengthen and rely on each other? Because when you leave this type of context that you guys come from, you come from a very loved environment, a very supported environment, a very busy one, and there's a lot going on around you of familiarity of people that know you and you know them. How's that dynamic affected your guys' relationship in this journey that you're on at the moment?
Well, she's amazing. She's the best wife in the entire world.
But you're still hugging each other. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. Still hugging.
I think that the one word that you use there is the thing that we've had to rely on each other for, is the familiar. Because there's people who love us, there's people who support us, there's partnerships, and friendships that we're forging, but it's the familiar. It's knowing, resetting your comfort zone, sort of. In when you feel the pressure, what do you turn to? What do you do? And God's given us grace to be able to help each other through that. But to a certain degree, He's given us the grace to help each other point towards Jesus. And I think it's just refining that, relying on Him. Obviously, it's you miss people. If I was, I miss biltong and I miss dry horse and I miss steak, but like, you can kill a cow, and you can get a steak. It might not be the same as a South African one, but those things are temporal things. It's relationships, it's people, it's defaults, it's picking up the phone and realizing I want to phone that person, but actually it's 2:00 in the morning. Then they might not just want to hear your joke because you want to hear their voice. maybe those people are there. I'll phone you at 2:00 in the morning. But it's just those defaults. It's those defaults that we've lived for 30 odd years with that suddenly are changing, and you gotta just adapt to them. So that's been our biggest conversation. But I think the longer God rewires your heart and your mind, and you'll always miss, but you'll always you just got to get on with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I realize, I mean, it hasn't been easy. So I want it to be really clear, it's not easy. We can speak out of what God has done and what God is doing, but there are still things that God is that we still need to deal with and still need to work in our hearts with. I mean, I was thinking this morning that I didn't realize I was struggling until I came out of it, and wow, because you don't realize you're struggling in something that's so unfamiliar. You just think it's something that needs to be that you need to get through, something that's normal in this situation, which is probably normal when you're struggling. It's probably normal, but we don't recognize it because we've never walked this way before. So we don't recognize what doing well is and what struggling is because we've never walked this way before. So we consider everything just normal, par for the course. And so I think God has really been faithful in keeping our heads up, in keeping us focused on Him. But even when we're struggling to keep us focused on Him, He's really been gracious in that space, really been gracious to us. And it's wonderful how He blesses us when we feel like we're not being faithful, because we don't know what we are doing. So,
but you've always said
afterwards,
you've never claimed to know what this looks like. That's the best thing about your journey and your story. You've never claimed to know that the next step in front of you is the right one or the wrong one. It's always been a faith journey that you're on. And it really is such an encouragement to people, because that takes away already half the nerve and fear factor for anybody wanting to plant a church. Is this thing that you keep on saying and have said over this journey that you've been on, is, guys, we have no idea what this thing looks like, but God does, and we're going to put our trust and our faith in Him. So that's encouraging. It really is. It's cool. You touched on something there about missing. What do you miss the most from South Africa, both of you?
For me, it's people. For me, it's relationships. It's you can't forge relationships over a moment. I said to Taryn last night, we spent pretty much the whole day, whole afternoon with a family and they're a great family. But there's still a longing for those deep relationships that you've had over years. That you don't have to you have to work at them. You can just hang out and just have a meal. You can go out, and it's there. I think the world is so like we find a place where you can get Karoo lamb. We find places where you can get you can get biltong. The world's changing, and there's enough South Africans around this world to spread the love. But relationships is a big thing.
I think I miss our family. Our parents. Because it's that time where you don't have to talk. When you don't have to talk, just be in each other's presence. And
family and friends. That's a big thing.
That's something we miss. I mean, we like Craig and I are, as you know, Craig and I are foodies, and so we miss South African food and the way it's cooked, and the restaurants, but like that comes second now. But those are the things we miss.
What do the kids talk about back home, or and how do they refer to it? Do they say? I mean, obviously each of them have different age groups, so they would reference it differently. Because I'd imagine that it's starting to become more and more home in Wichita. So do they still refer to it as what it was at home, is South Africa? And what do they talk about? What do they miss?
The very unique thing that they find themselves in is they settled because they have to they're going to school and they got home here, but they know that Wichita is not forever. So they still speak about like when we get to New York, and even Stella in her naivety, she's like, when we get to America, like she knows that we transitioning, we knows that. So there's a lot of conversation, around New York and what that looks like, and they understand that it's taking time and they appreciate that. So a lot of their terminology and their thinking is we haven't quite arrived there yet, so we're still in the transition. But then a lot of the conversations, it's more, Titus loves nature. So it's like, I wish I could go, to the Kruger Park and stuff like that. Yeah. But then it always comes down to relationships. It comes down to family. It comes down to grandparents. That's at the nuts and bolts of it. That's the, that's.
I mean, they'll talk about South Africa, but because we sold our home and moved in with my mom before we came to America the first time. And then when we came back, we were living with Craig's parents. We didn't really have a home. So there wasn't a house home that they could talk about. And so it's South Africa. But also sometimes because of the influence of the American kids, it's when we were in Africa, which is that's how they refer to. Home, and we told them all the time, home is where we five are. And so wherever we are, that's home.
That's
and
great.
So this will be home for now.
Until New York. Yeah.
Until this is home because we're here.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Tell us a bit about the church plant. So thank you for the snapshot. Thanks for the flyover of where you guys are at. I know it's difficult within a 20-minute video to kind of encapsulate, as you said, Taryn, just of what God's done in and through the entire experience and through your lives over the last 6 months. But tell us a bit about the future. What does it look like? How's it adapted? How's it slightly changed? Has it changed? What does it look like, Craig?
Yeah.
Tell us, Craig.
So, Lord. No, I think like it says, I think we just wanted to let people in on this video, like, hey, we're still alive. We haven't just off the face of the earth. Yeah. I think some of that story of how we're going to get to the church plant, we'd love to dive into details a little bit more. But for us, where it is with the timeline being so crazy as it has been, we just felt like when the year started in America, the school year starts in September and runs to May. Chatting to Scott, chatting to the elders back in South Africa, we just felt like God led us here to be here for more than the couple months we thought we would be here. Yes. We could leave at any moment now that we legally allowed to get off and go plant the church and do it like we wanting to. But we just felt like to give our kids a full year at school, even the school's commitment to work, they're like, in 3 months if we have to go, or 6 months, go. You got to follow what God's got for you. Yes. So I think sometimes in our partnerships and that we've seen guys leave South Africa under one, I'm going to plant a church, and then it's actually they just wanted to get to another country or get out of South Africa. We've been quite clear with people that's not our case. We're not wanted to leave Joburg to get to Wichita. I told the people in Wichita, what does Wichita and New York have in common? Well, it's the door that God's opened. Ask him what they have in common, because they don't. So for us, it's the church in Wichita and Restoration. They know we're heading towards New York. Cornerstone knows they're sending us. Everything that we're doing, our partnerships know that there's this church plant coming. It's just been delayed by a couple months. That's for us. So we, as best as we know how right now, we could project and say after the school year we can start transitioning to New York. It might happen sooner, it might happen later. It's still going to happen. 110%. Yes. 110%. We don't. It hasn't changed. It's just a timing thing right now. That we're wanting to be wise with our family and just with God's leading.
And also our visas, we've our extension of our visa in. We want to apply for our green card.
We're checking Lloyd's and seeing out what we can do. So hopefully we can get a green card application in before that.
Yeah.
So
those things are really important. Those practical things in this time are really important as well. And because of the people that we have around us here in Wichita, those things are easier than if we had to try to do that in New York.
And plant a church and be about it also. So God's been in that. So
amazing, guys.
So yeah, church plant definitely happened. New York's, I wish I could show you around the house. We got a map of New York there. We got pictures of New York around. We see a picture of New York and
send them over, and we'll just merge them into the video update. It'd be awesome for people to see, bro.
Yeah, so like parts of our heart, you see New York just wants to jump out and get there.
Yeah.
But just got to be secure in its timing, it's going to happen. So
yeah. Awesome, man. What are you guys trusting for? I mean, it's easy to say, hey, bro, I'll be praying for you, which many are. Many care about this update, and that's what we spoke about, Craig, is what's been happening. It sounds like a lot, and I feel like we've encapsulated that in just under 20 minutes or so. But what are you guys trusting for? So what can we practically pray into? What can we practically support in? Just a high level on those, so that guys walk away from this video update knowing that they can pray into specifics and be behind you in it.
So I think a lot of our prayers, up until now, were like, God, get us to America. And I think you get caught in that mode of get us there, get us there. No, we and it had to change. Even though we're going to New York, it's no, we're walking in God's plan for our lives right now. It was Wichita was always there as a stop on the way, as a preparing and a galvanizing of what God's doing in us. So take that prayer, and like, okay, God, you answered that. That's a big answer that you've done. So I think right now it's trusting God for the timing. That it's not, we in our own understanding could say now and no one would question it and we'd be okay. But it's timing where restoration, they feel it's the right time to release us, where we feel it's the right time to go, where we feel our family is at ready. The long transition we had was hard, and kids were in a state of flux for a long time. So for them just to I know God can redeem all of this, and God can work with them, and we're not making a decision because our kids are manipulating us or anything. It's just trusting God for that, that we can just get His timing perfectly right. And then I think it's obviously with that comes a whole nother thing, provision to get into New York, strategy on how to plant. Immigration's not a cheap exercise. And you don't do it to make money. You do it to lose everything that you had. So, it's like we predicted we'd have X amount saved to launch this church. Bringing a container, setting up house, your lawyer's fees, just adds up. And you're like, okay, cool. God's going to provide more. And we secure in that. We know that God will provide. God will speak strategy. There's, that there's a whole prayer into New York, which is important. And we appreciate that. But I think more for now, it's how can we best serve this church? How can we get behind Restoration's vision and own it as ours? How can we make an impact in some of these kids' lives and at the school? How can we be a great example there of Jesus? Some of those kids could potentially take the gospel back into parts of this world where the gospel can't go. And how do we trust for those opportunities to be able to share the gospel? And then, blow wind into other churches. We had the privilege of going to Darren and Kanisha and Upward Call. Shout out to LA. Chino Hills, so support the churches that we can get to. We're not having to focus on planting a church, so we're able to get to other churches and encourage them. So,
That's fantastic. You want to add anything there, Taryn?
I think more when we get to New York, for me as a mom, trying to figure out how our kids will be schooled.
Educated.
Educated. They'll be schooled there whether I like it or not.
School of whatnot.
But how we're going to educate them, how we're going to help them a lot. Things are taught very differently here, and we just want to give our kids the best opportunities. So how that's possible.
The practicals of that are,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that, it would be great for someone to pray for that with us.
That's fantastic.
People, not someone.
Yeah. So
Anyone,
timing.
one person is great.
So timing, just maximizing the season that God has you in right now. This, what you've phrased as just a very strategic season. So just maximizing that in all areas of where God's placed you. And then obviously there's the provision for the next step. So what that looks like for you as a family, what that looks like for you as the church plant. So those would be the three key areas, right? That you really are asking guys to just back you in and trust for. That's fantastic.
Yes,
man.
well summarized.
I do comms, by the way.
Didn't know that.
I'm very impressed.
I don't know if there's anything else that you had on your heart that you wanted to share, but I actually, just preparing for this, had two scriptures that I wanted to share with you and encourage you with. I don't know if you'll have me back to do another video update. This might be the end of our friendship because you don't know what the end result's going to look like. So I thought I'd that's the opportunity while I have it with you. But yeah, before I close with those two scriptures, is there anything that you felt that you wanted to share that we haven't touched on?
No, I think this is a real honor to be able to have this forum.
Yeah.
You often think of how you should do this, write an email. I don't know about you, but like I get a email that's longer than five lines and I'm already zoned out. And I'm sure if you listen to a video that's more than 30 seconds, you're going to zone out. But for
those who have lasted this long,
those who are still with us, thank you. But I think for me, it's just great to there's so many moving parts within our story. We just want to thank everyone and honor everyone as best as we can. Cornerstone sending us, what a great church to be sent from, Restoration here in Wichita to be welcomed in. What a great church to be planted in. And God's changing things. There's different relationships with different seasons, and our partnership with NCMI doesn't fall away. We appreciate those friendships and love their support, and this new partnership with Restoration and other churches even back in New York that we speak with and encourage and that aren't partnering with NCMI. We're partnering in the kingdom. We partner around the King and His kingdom, and we speak that. We put it on most churches. There's a King in the Kingdom sign, and it's just to be able to walk in that reality. Sometimes isn't easy, but it's the kingdom, and we super stoked about that. So
we're so grateful.
We're happy about it. So thank you guys. Appreciate everyone on every level.
That's great, guys. Awesome, man. Just before I close out, where can people find more than 3 words of an update from you guys? Do you have like a journey website? Just tell us a bit about that. What platforms, what channels? We'll put it up. Let us know if it's on Facebook or is it a website address, or tell us what you're doing to keep guys updated on your journey.
So I think probably the 2 spots would be Herbert's in New York, Herbert's in NYC. On Instagram is probably the landing page of what we do. Just we'll try and populate that as much as we can. We try to use it as our journey into what's happening. Obviously, our own personal ones, it's personal and it will have some stuff. Then with that, we started a blog that we're going to use to try and now it was an attempt, and communication wasn't the best. And now, with the help of some friendships that we have around this world, we're going to use that. And that's the blog.
Awesome.
The blog post is Why New York, and the details be there. And it's just people ask why do South Africans want to go to New York, and that was the heart. And now it's going to transition into what God's got for us. So those will probably be the 2 places.
Awesome, bro. Fantastic. So the 2 scriptures I had for you, the first was just Philippians 4 verse 11. And it says, I don't say this out of need, for I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. And I felt a thing of just being content. And I love how content you guys are. And just praying about that word content, I really do just trust that you continue to live in complete contentment with whatever circumstances you find yourself in. And sometimes those aren't the difficult circumstances that we have to be content with. It's just, as you've mentioned so many times during this video, is that there's certain seasons and God's timing that you have to be content with. And so I want to encourage you guys that your trust and faith in the Lord, to be content, is an encouragement. And then the second one was from James, and it says, James 4 verse 15, it says, instead you should say this: if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. And it's just that thing again of just your faith and your trust being in him. If he says do this, do it. And if he says do that, do that. And if he says don't do that for a season, don't do that for a season. And so I wanted to just encourage you with those two scriptures. And if it's okay, I'd love to just pray over you guys, and then we're going to close the video out here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, please.
So, Lord, we want to just thank you for this incredible couple, Lord, and this family. Lord, thank you for their heart of courage and their heart of contentment, just to find the purpose that you have for them in everything that they've been through in the last, call it, year and a half, Lord. And so we just want to just bless them, thank them, congratulate them, encourage them, just stir their faith. And may the season ahead, Lord, just be one with much clarity. They've asked for specific prayer into certain areas. Lord, the prayers around the world of friends and partners that come around those prayer topics, would you, Father, just hear them? And we ask, Lord Jesus, that you bring just an amazing amount of just support and just strategic next steps in and around what the Herberts need to do to get to New York. And that beautiful picture of the church that they see in New York, there for the purposes of the kingdom, there for the purposes of you being exalted and glorified, and for the community that it might serve, Lord. May that be the greatest prize. May that be the greatest dream that they achieve, Lord. And they do that through the partnership and the friendships of people all over the world, Lord, that are keen, are willing, and wanting to support them. So, Lord, we pray your blessing over them. We trust you, Lord, that you know the plans and the purposes that you have for them. They will prosper them, and they will never be harmed. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for the catch up. Really, really appreciate it. We're going to get this blasted all over the world for you through your channels. And yeah, like we said, everything that we discussed now, the prayer topics, where you can get further updates from the Herberts, will all be included in the video and the post link. So thanks for listening to the Herberts story update. Finally, we got to hear from them.
And guys, if you want to repost it all over, please feel free. It's it's for the world, for the people.
For the people.
Love you guys.